Thank you everybody for coming in this morning. Happy to see everyone. My name is Sanjeev Khudanpur. I think I know most of you, but in case there are some in the audience who don't know me, that's me. We have a nice set of presentations set up today. This is the program or the agenda for the morning. It's always a challenge to do these hybrid meetings where some people are online and some people are in person. We'll try to do the best we can. The way we'll do the logistics is that as people present, we have allocated a fair amount of time for Q&A. So please feel free to ask questions. And people online, it'll be great if you can raise your hand. And that way we'll turn on your audio and you can ask the question orally. There is a Q&A box and we do have Emma monitoring it, but it's always a pain to keep your eyes on three different things. So the speakers themselves will not be paying attention to the Q&A box. And if you type your question only over there and nobody answers it, don't feel offended because that's not a priority. If you want to ask a question, raise your hand. Someone will turn on your audio and you can ask it orally. People in the room, of course, same thing. Raise your hand and ask your questions. Speakers, if you can repeat the question, that'll be helpful because people online, while they will hear the speaker from here, may not hear the audience in the room very well. Other than that, minor disaster in the morning. Our coffee hasn't arrived. I just sent a message saying if it can come in by the break, at least we'll be recaffeinated. Other than that, we're ready to start. So restrooms are directly behind you for those in the room here. And what else? Oh, that's it. So without further ado, then let's get started. So this is the 8th Frederick Jelinek Memorial Workshop, which means it's the 8th one since we started naming it after Fred. But of course, the workshop has a much longer history. And let me just walk you through it really quickly. And just to give you a feeling for how you got here, what happened before you got here. So these workshops actually owe their origin to a place called the Institute for Defense Analysis in Princeton. This is a group that has been working on cryptology problems for a long, long time, almost since the 1950s, if I remember right. And they've had a long tradition of bringing in mathematicians in the summer to work on hard crypt problems. And there were a number of people at IDA, Arthur House, Tom Crystal, Jordan Cohen. These are just names to you, but for some of the older people in the field, we actually know them. They've all retired now. And they said, hey, we should do something like this for speech and language because speech and language are equally hard problems. And we need the community to come together. So the idea SCAMP model was, SCAMP stood for Summer Camp and Applied Mathematics and Probability or something like that. The idea was that you'd bring people together and they would work together for a long time in a single space. And the idea was that bringing people together does more than the sum of its parts. And so that's why they started it. And initially, the first couple of workshops were held at Rutgers University in 93 and 94. I have a gut feeling many of you in this room were probably not born in 93 and 94, I'm not sure. Anyway, so it started there. And in 1993, the Center for Language and Speech Processing was established at Johns Hopkins, and Fred Jelinek was named its director. And basically, since 95, the workshop has come to Hopkins and stayed here. So 95 was the first JHU workshop. And just to give you some perspective, about 3 or 4 years ago, Microsoft declared human parity in speech recognition. Of course, it's a facetious claim, but basically they got word error rate on this telephone speech corpus called switchboard down to below 5% or so. But in 1995, the error rate was 55%. So you got more words wrong than right. And on Spanish conversational speech, it was more like you got 1 in 5 words right. So that's when these workshops started. And of course, I'm talking about a very old time. I used to have hair on my head, and that's what Fred Jelinek looked like. But many good things have happened since then. We've had a workshop every year, except last year due to COVID. Workshop teams have done fun things always together. So I can promise you all that you'll have fun. So this was a team from, I think, 98. Eric Brill, who's second from the, I guess, your right, went on to become the CTO of eBay, I think, and now he is fun employed, as he likes to call himself. Others you might recognize, There is Mike Collins, who went and became a professor at MIT. He was a grad student at that time, and so on and so forth. And Doug Jones, if Doug is in the audience somewhere in the ether. So these are old pictures. A lot of good things have happened in the workshops over the years. So graphical models were brought to speech recognition for the first time in one of our workshops, and that's where they became popular. So who you see over there is way back is Jeff Zweig, who is now at Meta. Jeff Bilmes in the middle, and they were leading that team. And Jeff is a professor at at UW. And Peng Shu, who was a grad student, then went on to Google Translate and a bunch of other things. Talking of Google Translate, the photo on the other side is Franz Ock, who again started here at the workshop and then went on to join Google and started their machine translation team. So Google Translate was born here. Next to him is Alex Fraser, who's now a professor in, where's it, Canton, Stuttgart? Somewhere in Germany, yes, yeah. Of course, the workshop has been leading the field in many ways. So there's a lot of talk these days about joint image and text processing and understanding and captioning images and generating images. Back in 2004, we were already working on joint visual plus text processing. And also we kept moving the bar on all sorts of other things. Moses, which was by far the most popular machine translation toolkit for many, many years, was born here. Philip Kuhn, who is now, actually I can say Philip wrote the book on machine translation, and then he wrote the book on neural machine translation. So he started his machine translation trajectory here at the workshop, led a team which built the Moses toolkits. The workshop gave rise to groundbreaking innovations like iVectors, and this is Najim from those days. Now he looks a little bit different. And then we had Kaldi was born in this workshop, as some other speech people know. It went on to become one of the most popular and well-developed toolkits. Kaldi, by the way, was born jointly here with the help of Dan Povey and Lukáš Burget from Brno and Petr Schwartz. So it was a joint effort and so on and so forth. One of the things is for many, many years since 95, we used to have the workshop here in Baltimore. And everybody used to say, why Baltimore? Of course, Fred Jelinek was here, so that's why Baltimore. But then 1 year after he passed away, we just, as an experiment, went to Prague. We had the workshop there, and it was such a big success that we decided since then that we'll alternate. So the first picture is the Charles University faculty. The big red roof building in the middle is the faculty. Behind that is the Opera House, if I remember right, in Prague. Beautiful location. Actually, no, this might be the lower square, the Malostranska. And yes, Thomas is nodding at the back, so that's right. And then the picture on the right is sunset in Seattle. And the picture is too tiny for you, but you can actually see Mount Rainier right here somewhere. And so we had great fun being, so now we do 1 year in, 1 year out, right? But you think of this as a summer workshop, but frankly, it is not just summer. For Hopkins, it's like a year-round activity. So you're now looking at right here at the end of June, you have started the workshop, we'll go on for about 6 weeks. You guys will write reports. But as soon as you do that, we take a short breather and we go up to September and start creating the call for proposals for next year. We set some deadlines, typically in late October. We have a peer review meeting sometime in November, typically. We look for money. We finalize senior members in January, grad students in February, undergrads in March. We start having team meetings to prepare. And then we stress test some computing or build baselines. We have the second set of meetings in May. In June, we get the students here a little early, get everybody preparing. So really, when you guys think of the summer workshop, think of what Hopkins does. So a lot of people here have to work year round to make this thing happen, which is a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun because now we have all of you here. And why do I say that? I'll tell you in a minute what a rich set of people we've got today. But let me start where they started this year. So we had to not have the workshop in 21 because of COVID. There was no time to prepare. 2020, the whole world was locked down. And in the early 2021, we didn't even know if we're going to come back. So we skipped 1 year, but we started again. So around September, we sent out this call and we asked for proposals. So we said, hey, just send in a page on any topic that you think makes a good workshop team, and let's get together and talk about it. So this call went out. We specifically asked for a focus on low resource languages, but also computer vision, HLT for healthcare, and so on. And we had to have a meeting in December. It's always challenging to have a hybrid meeting because our spiky friend hadn't quite gone away. We thought we had overcome Delta, but then Omicron came along, and I don't know what else is in store for us. But we decided to persevere through it, right? And so we actually got a very nice response. We received 12 proposals. Once in a while, you get some proposal which is completely out of scope for the workshop. So there was one of those, and we had to let it go. But everybody else was invited to a planning meeting in late November, November 22nd to 24th. As you can imagine, with COVID and travel restrictions, seven of the proposers were able to come here in person. And the other three, we had to involve them remotely. And another challenge, what platform do we use? The venue where we had this suggested that we use this thing called WeWork. That turned out, if somebody in the room is logged into the webinar, just mute your microphone and loudspeaker. So we had to deal with remote video conferencing platforms. One set of proposals couldn't show up at all, so we presented the proposal by proxy. It was about explainability in AI and so on and so forth. And we got other people to sort of sit and brainstorm with this group. So there were 34 people in total who attended these sessions. 19 were in person, 15 were virtual. This group of 34 people had about 20 academics, including 8 faculty from JHU, 12 people from industry, 2 from government. So as always, we try to involve the whole community in figuring out what proposals are worth pursuing. We had a lot of fun. And this is basically what we did. So we basically presented the proposals, critiqued them, revised them, presented, critiqued, revised, until time ran out on Sunday afternoon. And we ended up voting on these proposals. And my colleague, Jason Eisner, who's not here today, can explain to you at some time in the future what an ideal voting system is and how there's a theorem that says one doesn't exist. And then the best one we have after that is called the single transferable vote, or sometimes people call it ranked choice. Sometimes people call it instant runoffs. So we use those methods to figure out which proposals are good. And it turns out that the proposals that were best were the 3 that you will hear from today. So specifically, the proposals that were selected, one of them is titled Multilingual Speech-to-Speech Translation for Under-Resourced Languages. This proposal has an interesting origin to it already. It's led by Anthony Larcher from Le Mans, and they're going to explore truly multimodal systems. By multimodal, I mean the input can be speech or text, and the output can be speech or text in any other language. And it comes about from a consortium called Esperanto, which actually is a European-funded project which has been in existence for some time. And one of our plans in that project was to get together as a team in one of these workshops. So we were very happy to see that that proposal itself was one of the ones selected. The other one is on a pretty current topic, multilingual, or more specifically code-switched speech, where there are 2 or more languages within one utterance in a sentence, within one utterance of speech. It's led by Ahmed Ali from the Qatar Computing Research Institute, or QCRI, and they're going to study, as I said, code-switching phenomena in speech and to build transcription systems. And the third team is working on another topic which is emerging to be an important one, namely how to leverage pre-trained models for speech processing, how to understand what they're doing, how to figure out how best to use them for various tasks, and so on and so forth. And this team is led by Hongyi Lee from the National Taiwan University, and he'll talk about the super benchmark and other ways of using pre-trained models, right? So very quickly about what kind of teams other than the team leaders we have. So the speech translation team, as I call it for short, actually has 13 the senior members. 10 of them are full-time, and let's say 3 almost full-time because they're missing the first week of the workshop, but otherwise they're here for most of it. 10 of them are academics and 3 people are from industry. They have 11 PhD students, actually 11 students, PhDs and undergrads all combined. In terms of gender balance, they have 19 men, 5 women. The gender balance is roughly the same among the senior members and the students. It's 10 plus 3 among the senior members, 9 plus 2 among the students. And this team is very international. Part of the reason is the Esperanto Consortium. There's a number of European universities and so on. So it's sort of in their origin. There are 2 US people in those 24 and 22 are from outside the US. But this is one of the fun things about the workshop, that we bring people together from all over the world. The second team is the code switching team, as I like to call it for short. Also has 9 senior members. 5 of them are full-time, meaning they're here in Baltimore. Another 4 are part-time or remote. So some of them couldn't get here because of visa reasons. Others simply couldn't commit all 6 weeks. So they'll be here for a couple of weeks and the rest remotely. This team also has 7 academics and 2 from industry. This is a hallmark of our workshop. We always get industry involvement in these projects. This has 11 students, again, 10 full-time and 1 student is almost full-time. I think he got here today. And then the gender balance in this one is a little bit better. There are 8 men and 12 women in this field, in this team. And it's a little bit interesting that in the senior members, it's 6 and 3, but among the students, it's 2 and 9. So I think we're going in the right direction. Next generation, I think, will be more balanced. And this one, again, has a lot of international component, but that's partly because code switching is a phenomenon that's sort of very widely studied, more outside the US than in the US. I think we tend to be pretty monolithic. Maybe we have Spanish English, but that's about it. So this is a second team. The third team, the one that's working on pre-trained models, has 9 senior members, 5 full-time and 4 part-time. Again, part-time means some of them are here part of the time and working remotely and so on and so forth. Again, nice balance, 5 academics, 4 from industry. They have 8 PhD students, 8 students altogether. I keep saying PhD, but I forget we have undergrads in the mix. And they have 11 men, 6 women, 10 from the US. This is more of a US dominant team. Most of the people are from the US and a few from outside the US. So 10 and 7. Well, not dominant, let's just say majority. So overall, the workshop has 60, actually I should change this, it's 61 participants, I miscounted. 61 full-time participants, 61 participants total, 49 full-time. So it's amazing that for the next 6 weeks, there'll be almost 50 of you working together if you count me as half and maybe Yenda as half. So there'll be 50 of us working together on these 3 problems. Pretty nice balance, about half senior members, half students. Most of them are academics, so it's 70-30 between academia and industry. I was a little torn because, some of the participants are from the French equivalent of NIST, I think. And I was wondering whether I should count them as academic or government. And then I just said, they're not US government, so they're. But anyway, if I did that, it would be 60-30-10. And then, of course, among the students, it's 80% grads, 20% undergrads. We have a nice representation in terms of the whole world. About 30% of the personnel are from the US, 60-70% from outside the US. In terms of institutions, it's roughly the same, 30% US, 70% outside the US. And what this tells you is that there's a nice balance, which means that we don't have too many people from one place, or a few from every institution, roughly 2 per institution, if you want to think of it that way. Right? So we do have a lot of institutional diversity. And in terms of countries, there are 11 countries represented here. And by that, I mean just the institutions. Sometimes, by the way, you can have people from other countries in one institution. So I'm not even counting that. I didn't go looking at people's passports. It's just that the institutions are 11 countries, 29 institutions, 9 from the US, 5 from France, 4 from India, and then Czech Republic, Singapore, UK, 2 each, and then Greece, Qatar, Spain, Taiwan, UAE, 1 each. So that's roughly where we are. By the way, these teams, once they were put together in February, March, and so on, have been doing a lot of preparation. So one of the things we do for JSALT is that we meet ahead of time more than once. So remember that November meeting is when we decided what the teams were, but after that, we went on and did other things. So Anthony's team met once in Le Mans for a couple of days, and then they were supposed to meet in Avignon, but last minute they moved to Paris because of some US visa issues, because that's been another headache this year. Ahmed's team met once in Doha and once in Edinburgh. And then Hangi's team had 1 Zoom meeting. They're like the more modern team. They want to function online. And then they met again on June 12th in Baltimore. And then once everybody got here, we had a very productive 2 weeks with the students. We tried to expose them to all sorts of ideas in speech and language. So the summer school, this one went to sleep, that's right. So the summer school had Jason Eisner lecturing on NLP. Then we had a day on machine translation where Kenton gave a lecture in a lab. I believe the lab was some competitive thing and there was a dinner prize at the end of it. Paul, Jim, and Eugene gave a nice set of lectures at labs on information retrieval. Philip and his student Shutai set up a lab for machine translation. Mark Zedzi, Tom Lippincott, who's here, talked about NLP applications in healthcare and humanities. Matthew and I did a set of lectures in labs on speech recognition. By the way, I'll give a beer to whoever figures out the color code on June 20th. And then Jesus, Doug Reynolds from Lincoln Labs, and Paula did lectures on speaker recognition and diarization. Then the three teams had a day each. So Anthony's team on Tuesday, Ahmed's team on, Wednesday, Ahmed on Thursday, and Hangi on Friday. So at this point, the students are all up to speed and ready to do research. The senior people are here. So we're going to tell you what we're going to do in the next 6 weeks. So let's begin with Anthony. Again, people in the ether, if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand. Somebody will unmute you.